Welcome to a very special Tiff Talks. And it's special because it's not really a Tiff Talks. We're moving into the world of podcasts. As of next week, we are going to be every Monday evening, GMT, 8 p.m. We're going to be uploading a podcast. We're probably going to upload the video as well, which I don't know whether people actually want to see that, but we're moving to a lot of podcasts. But the podcast is about motor racing and motorsport, because this man here, he's very, very good at going around a racetrack sideways, but he's also incredibly knowledgeable at motorsport. So without further ado, Tiff, we're going to head straight into it. This is a bit of a taster and a bit of a teaser as to what's going on. This one's retrospectively and looking forward as well, but most of them will be talking about the week before and then what's coming up. And it's a bit of a bittersweet week, really. We lost two automotive greats, two massive personalities, and a young gun came through with just an incredible achievement as well. So it's sort of ended the week well, but it started awfully. And I know you spent time with both Sabine and also Murray.
Yeah, I mean, it's lovely to talk about the world of motorsport, but we do have to start with, it was a sort of bittersweet, last couple of weeks, losing Murray, of course, was, we knew it was all coming, he managed to get to 97, wasn't it? I always hoped to get to 100. But as I sort of tweeted, he's just the nicest human being I've ever met, apart from his enthusiasm, his love of the sport, and that's what came over his commentaries. He was just a charming man, polite and kind to everybody. There didn't seem to be ever a bad word in his mind, and so that was very sad. And of course, losing Sabine, so young at just 50 was, a real shock for her fans and followers. I knew she'd been, battling cancer, for the last 2 or 3 years. So, it was always a worry that it was going to go the wrong way, and sadly it did. And she was a hell of a character. I only really worked with her about 3 days on fifth gear. People always think she's top gear, but she was fifth gear as well. But great driver, very fast around her beloved Nürburgring. She never really raced anywhere else, but very sad, to be taken so soon. And then, bouncing back in a great positive way, there's young Billy Munger, just doing incredible things. What that kid's been through since, wanting to be a racing driver and dreaming and losing both legs, and just it never seemed to knock him back, and now he's, cycled, run, walked, canoed, amazing. So, and the money collected was over 2 million, wasn't it, that Billy managed to get for comic relief? Absolutely fantastic.
He won a lot of fans then, including myself. I respect the guy anyway, but I think he won a lot of fans outside of motorsport. Just such a lovely story. And in terms of this chat, so a bit of a sort of general roundup, but it's going to be about all sorts of motorsport from all over the world. So I think there's no better place to kick off than Formula One, but we will come on to all sorts of motorsport because it's all kicking off in Formula One next week. We start in Bahrain. And of course, there's been testing in Bahrain as well.
Yeah, I think we go back first at what's already happened. Now, this is, Formula One is the kick-off this coming weekend. But, I love motorsport. I always want to spread the word more, because I think so much motorsport doesn't get appreciated. There's so much out there. Of course, the World Rally Championship was already kicked off with Monte Carlo and the Arctic Rally. 2 rounds of Ogier won the first and Tanak the second, and Elfyn Evans is doing well. He's running 4th in the championship at the moment.
You're getting too excited. Let's go to Formula One and we can come on to World Rally. You're getting too excited already, which is good. Your passion, I love. And it is very infectious. But Formula One, so you're quite right. They've already been out to Bahrain, doing some testing. I think Mercedes were maybe sandbagging a little bit, but who looked the best? Who was strongest? And who are your tips for this weekend?
I never look at testing. I think it's a waste of time. Nobody knows what weights you're running, what fuel you're running. We had the amazing thing with the AlphaTauri, second fastest, but then someone noticed that the little Japanese star of the future had his little wing flap open earlier on the straight than you're supposed to. So everyone said, well, that time didn't count. But I think there was solid runs for everyone. Ferrari looking maybe a little bit better, but again, Mercedes bounce out and do quick times. Red Bull looking very good with Verstappen, and I see already not Sainz has gone to Ferrari. Perez has already said, it might take me 5 races and let me settle things. I think he's now realizing that being up against young Verstappen is not an easy task for any driver, and I actually sadly predict that, a couple of the things that are going to happen this year, that Sainz will find life a bit tougher than he thought against Leclerc. And I think Perez will find it a bit tougher against Verstappen than he thought it would be.
Because, of course, as a driver, all you really want to do is beat your co-driver. That's the only way you can really have a barometer on it. But so in terms of Mercedes, it's got to be Lewis again.
Yeah.
Red Bull, Max Verstappen, what a talent that kid is. If he does get pushed, I'll be surprised. But tell me, Lando, our little favourite from the UK, how's he going to do? Is he going to be number one driver?
Well, he's got a tough task, you know, because I thought he saw signs, you know, Ricciardo coming in that the first heat maybe. I think that's going to be tougher for Lando. But Lando, I think, is the most amazing natural talent, you know. Ricciardo's got the experience, but it's going to be very even. I think Ricciardo will probably get more points at the end of the year, but the qualifying might be pretty 50-50. But it's this huge battle for, you know, best of the rest, whether it's McLaren or Racing Point, which now, of course, is Aston Martin, and then there's Ferrari in that batch, and Alfa Tauris. And in fact, Alfa Romeo went quite well in testing, so who knows what that's going to happen in there.
Yeah, it's good to see Aston Martin back. It's really good to see them back. Quite exciting. So out of the young talent, different teams, completely different teams, but British talent, George Russell and Lando, who we just mentioned. There you go. If they were in the same team, who would it be? Who would you go for there?
George having to spend another year dragging that Williams round. He must be gutted, you know. I was amazed when they signed Bottas, to be honest, so early last year, you know, for this extra year. You know, I think they could have waited later, probably got him up there, got George up in that Mercedes for this season, but instead he's got to pedal around in the back of the field for another year. And if Lewis wins the championship and gets his 100 Grand Prix wins or something, I can see him walking away. You know, he's got so much, that man, he wants to do in this world.
Not a chance. No chance.
You just want to see Lewis there forever, don't you? Because you're a Lewis fan.
It's really awkward, isn't it? Because you've got these amazing young drivers, and you know, F2's full of fantastic drivers, F3, GP3 all the way through, and then you get people back like Alonso or Sebastian Vettel that, let's face it, they're probably not going to compete. Why don't they let some new blood in? But I guess it's the banker, isn't it?
Yeah, the constructors. The constructors' championship is so important. A lot of teams don't want to risk a youngster because they want the constructors' points are so important. I'd rather get rid of constructors. Who cares which constructor wins? But you know, Alonso coming back, obviously a huge story. Esteban Ocon, I thought was quite good 2 or 3 years ago. When he was a Pink Panthers, him and Perez were banging wheels every weekend. But he had a sort of a quiet season last year. Whether Ocon's going to come forward as much as many predicted he would, that's an interesting battle at Renault. And Renault have got this new, Alpine, not Renault anymore, changing names. You know, Alpine have got this weird 2 heads of the team where they've got one in charge of the race meeting and one in charge of the factory. And I think there's a bit of French problems going on there. If Alonso starts getting a bit stroppy if things aren't going his way as he can do and demand things, I'm not sure Alpine's going to be the happiest place this year somehow. I don't know why. I've just got that inkling.
So last on that tenuous French link, French-Canadian, Lance Stroll, who's going to win out of that battle?
Who have we missed out on all the teams? I always miss a team when I go through teams as well. I mean,
Jaguar.
Poor old. But so I'm a big Vettel fan. I think Vettel, it's a shame the way it all went wrong at Ferrari at the end. You know, he had a young gun come in, Leclerc, and I think that'll be on Lewis's mind. You see, you think Lewis will stay on, but you know, if he is going to get Russell, he knows he's going to have to up his game yet again, and it's a lot of effort Lewis puts into making sure he's always ahead of Bottas, always ahead of his teammate. And if he gets a young gun coming in and giving him a hard time, does he really want to, you know, go to that massive mental and physical effort to keep on pushing? Because that's really what happened with Ferrari. You know, Leclerc came in and bounced Vettel slightly, and he sort of lost his mojo, and the car wasn't that good anyway. And so, you know, probably Leclerc put in more effort at Ferrari last year to get something out of a car that was never going to win a race, where Vettel couldn't be bothered. But he'll certainly beat Stroll at Aston Martin.
I think so.
See, he's a real good.
See, I got to say, fair play to Stroll. He proved himself last year. I hope he does well. I don't think he's just a little rich kid, which he is. He can't help that. He can't help the fact his dad's a multi-billionaire. I think he's clearly got talent. You're not there unless you've got talent, clearly.
Yeah, but he's not brilliant. He's very good, but it all goes his way. It's incredible what he'll suddenly do out of the blue. You know, when we saw him in Turkey, was he like, what else? He's leading a Grand Prix and he's on podiums. but his qualifying times are never, on the pace of his teammates. And because we've now got sort of 3 bloody billionaires kids, because of course,
So
it was
what?
George's teammate Williams. But again, he's not good enough to be there on merit. But back in the old days, I was laughing. You had privateers, and you called them privateers because you knew they were paying their way in. And really, that's what they are. They're privateers that have come in. But who's alongside George at Williams? He's another guy.
The Russian boy.
The Canadian at Williams.
Okay.
Come on, name him.
I don't know.
I can't forget his name. I apologise hugely.
You're the oracle. You're the oracle of motor.
Anyway.
I've just bigged you right up, and now you've let me down already.
You're the Formula One man. You watched that Drive and Survive program, which I'm a bit bored by, to be honest.
Roy Nizar listening. No.
He's only there.
Oh, Latifi, you donut. Latifi.
Anyway, Latifi's only there because his dad's bought shares in the team. And so he's hogging a seat. Then we've got the Russian kid coming in, who's quite quick. I think the Russian kid's going to give Schumacher a hard time. And that could be a bit...
Oh, yeah, Mick Schumacher as well.
Yeah, because Mick's, again, he's had all the best equipment, the best teams. He's performed very well. He races very well. But again, his qualifying in Formula 2 was never really that impressive. It's his weak link. So who's going to win at that team? It'll be at the back of the grid, the Hassies. They'll be at the back battling with George at the back of the field. It's going to be fascinating to see who comes out on top at Haas, because they've both got a very tricky task ahead of them.
And you did say that Lance was in the Aston Martin, but Racing Point, so similar, it's the same thing. But okay, so
We've done all the teams now. We haven't missed anybody.
We haven't missed anybody, but I do want predictions for this weekend, please. For this coming weekend, predictions 1, 2, 3.
Haas, Williams, Alfa, Ferrari, Renault, Red Bull, and McLaren. Predictions for this weekend. Lewis will win again. Lewis will be up there. It's inevitable.
Who's going to have the third spot? Assuming. Who's going to be, Bottas, and then you got Max. I think Perez will be back a bit. He won't perform very well. So you could see, Who am I going to predict? I don't know now. You could see an Aston Martin on the podium. Did I say Jaguar? I don't know. I'm so confused.
Cracking up now. Jaguars, Aston Martin.
I'm going to make some notes next week.
You could see Sebastian on the podium. I'm predicting Vettel. That's good because that car was really good at the end of the year. Don't forget with Perez. I think when Perez gets beaten by Vettel, he's going to be a bit upset.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's very good. Aston Formula One done, and we'll have to gauge how much people want to hear about Formula One and the following motorsports.
Yeah, well, don't forget Formula 2 starts this weekend as well. We've only got one British driver, Dan Ticktum.
Yep.
So again, not enough people look at Formula 2, but he's this real Marmite character that got banned for a year for deliberately smashing someone off the road when he was about 16 in Formula 4, the Junior Formula in Britain. He became a Red Bull sponsored kid and went to Japan, and then they cut the money from him and he got sacked from Red Bull. He's now under the wing of Williams, and he's brought himself back into Formula 2. Last year, he had an average season, not with the best team. He's now with the best team. But he does talk a lot on the radio. Someone needs to get hold of him and really calm him down. He shouts on the radio when he's upset about his tyres going off.
Nothing wrong with a bit of it.
He's a real talent. He's really quick.
He is a talent. So he's the only Brit in the whole of F2. Wow. And F2 is quite exciting. If you don't know, I'm sure you do if you're listening to this podcast or watching this. It's a really exciting sound. They sound good. They look good. It's like, it's like F1 really a few years ago.
Except rather annoyingly, they've mucked about with it. Because Formula 2 and Formula 3 used to be on every Grand Prix support package. It was fantastic. The young drivers learned the circuits. They had one started the first race in the order they qualified, then had the reverse grid second race for a bit of show. Now they've got this ridiculous system that it's either Formula 3 or Formula 2. They only get 7 Grand Prix to support each year. And the first race, they have a reverse grid, so the fastest man starts 10th. They've actually got 2 reverse grid races. The second race, the pole position qualifying actually starts on pole. But all these reverse, it's supposed to be a meritorious thing, Formula One, when you get up to the higher echelons. And too many of these showbiz reverse grid races don't really go with me in Formula 2. But we'll see how it goes. But the thing is, there'll be a lot more winners of Formula 2 because they mixed up the grids. And I don't think that's right. I think, anyone that won a Formula 2 race from a reverse grid, it should be written in the brackets, 2 wins.
RG.
Both reverse grid. We want to know the guy that gets on pole and wins. That's what Formula One motor racing is about, not gimmicks and starting from the back.
And we know quite a few drivers that if they've won a reverse grid race, rest assured they will never ever tell you they've won a reverse. They'll just say they won in wherever, Abu Dhabi or whatever it may be.
Monte Carlo, if you finished 8th in the old days in the first race, you won at Monte Carlo in Formula 2. Well, yeah, but you didn't really, did you? No, you were 8th best that weekend.
Jostling for 8th position, making it wide at the swimming pool.
It's good that we can overtake it, because it is good to see. That's what Schumacher was good at. So, he's shone to me as an overtaker. And I think guys that do overtake, it is something that does show a talent. But too much reverse grid, I don't think is such a good thing.
Okay. Also on the support of Formula One, of course, is W Series, which will be Vicky Pippia, Jamie Chadwick.
We've got to wait and wait. I looked at all the dates, and when is the W Series? It comes not until June the 27th in France.
Wow.
Well, that's a long way. So even the Formula 2 boys, they race, as I said, they get about 7 weekends. They race in Bahrain this weekend, and then they have to wait until June the 6th for their second round, or it's just a big gap. But yeah, W Series should be fun. Again, it's a big gap. I don't think any of the women on the grid at the moment are potential Grand Prix drivers, because we've already seen them coming up to the ranks from lower. They're very good. They deserve to be there. And I think the W Series, what it's good at is trying to attract more young girls to start karting age 8. Because that's how we're going to find the first true, genuine Grand Prix driver, the Maxine Verstappen, by getting more girls doing it. If you only got sort of 100 girls in karting, you're not going to find the one magical talent that everyone's looking for. But if we get 1,000 girls doing karting, or 10,000 girls, then that natural talent that everyone's looking for may suddenly pop up. And it's going to be 3 or 4 or 5 years before a woman will be in a Grand Prix grid, I predict.
Well, I can't wait until that happens. It's kind of normal, really. Why can't women compete? But
we've got about 5 British girls out there, so it's great for us. We got I can remember all the names now, but it's really good.
This weekend, Daytona and Sebring. So
yesterday Sebring finished. So I'm a big sports car fan. Obviously, I raced the Daytona 24 hours about 5 or 6 times, Le Mans 14. So I love my sports cars. We had Honda Acura win at Daytona, and yesterday we had the Chevrolet, Chevys they call them, Cadillacs they call them. But in second place in the Mazda, 2 young British drivers plying their trade, Harry Ticknell and who was the Harry? I forget his names. I'm always crazy on names. It drives me mad when I start things up and I forget the names. Oliver Jarvis, Harry Ticknell and Oliver. So great to see, 2 talents that could have been Grand Prix drivers, but there are only so many seats, so sports cars is a way to go to be a professional driver. So it was great to see them out there in a second. So yeah, good race. We've got the new formula for World Sports Cars starting. When does that start? That's not until it's going to be at Spa, isn't it? May the 2nd. Somewhere around about there anyway. So the World Endurance starts with the new hybrids, the new Le Mans hybrids, which is the future formula. So we got that to come. So sports cars are good. We've got Formula E. Formula E's are coming. You love Formula E, don't you, Paul?
Well, not really, no. Look, I think both of us are quite happy in any exciting motorsport.
Yeah.
But it's exciting for a little bit, but then it sort of finishes quite quickly.
I know. We've had 2 rounds so far. And we've got Bird is second in the championship so far. Sam's second. He had a win, which is great for his new team, Jaguar. So I get confusing Aston Martin Jaguars all the time. So yeah, Sam's in second in the tables. That's good. But you need the most talented drivers to win in Formula E, and they are really talented, but they're all running to a sort of set program of energy use per lap. If you go a bit quicker, then you've got to go a bit slower for a lap. And so that's why all the drivers, because they're all very good, sit in a crocodile. Some will go forward a bit, then they'll have to back off and come back. And there are so many gimmicks with fan, boost, and they've got to go through the loop and pick up an extra bit of power for 3 laps. And for a purist like me, it drives me mad. But they're not quick enough. They're not powerful. You know, the tracks are incredibly tight. The bodywork of the cars encourages them to just dive for gaps and knock the guy out the way, which normally they get away with. But as we saw with Lynn at the last race, he went flying, you know, on that last lap, a horrendous crash that Alex was very lucky to get out of. It's a funny formula. It's not really, I don't think, for the purist to enjoy because it's so contrived. But we'll see. We'll see. If they get more power and get out to bigger circuits and the batteries last longer. But for 2 years' time, they're talking about refueling. I know, but as we know on Lovecars, you can be promised 150 kilowatts and you only get given 50 kilowatts. So to make refueling work, they're going to have all the power rechargers give exactly the same. I think they're talking about 600 kilowatts for however many minutes they're going to stop for. But
why don't they do like Star do with the Rallycross, and they just drop the battery down and they put a new one in? I mean, that's amazing.
Well, they actually did that. There's an American series of about 10 years ago you can find on YouTube, where they changed batteries. It was a student formula in America in the 90s, where they did change all the batteries. But because that Extreme E is happening, when does that start? Soon. Extreme E is, I've got my calendars again. That's on the next weekend, isn't it? Coming up soon. Yeah, on the 14th. So Extreme E, which is this.
So when we keep saying next weekend, so today is Monday, 22nd of March. So we're going to be launching this on a podcast on the 29th of March, which one we'll then talk about, well, things that happened on this weekend.
On the Grand Prix. So yeah, the 28th. So this weekend is the Bahrain Grand Prix. And the weekend after that, so in 2 weeks' time, is the first Extreme E with these buggy sort of vehicles and Jensen Buttons involved and Lewis is involved.
I saw that. Of course, it's on Top Gear last night. It was
a male and a female. Every team has to have a man and a woman, so that's all equal. And I'm not sure how they're going to race these buggies. It's a sort of a 5-mile lap. But I think you can sort of take different routes. It's all a bit vague as to how the racing is going to happen.
Well,
but anyway, all bit of unusual stuff.
Freddie Flintoff, because Hamilton's got a team as well. Freddie Flintoff and Nico Rosberg. He drove one last night on Top Gear.
Oh, did they?
It was such a lovely item. It's quite funny. Everybody, I saw Twitter and people saying, "Wow, Freddie and Paddy can really drive now because, of course, they got stunt drivers." They go inside the most amazing control power slides you've ever seen. Then it cuts to them in the car, sort of faffing around. And people are saying...
That's what always annoyed me most about Jeremy and the Top Gear. The thing that Plato and I do on Fifth Gear, you know, is that we drive and slide and talk at the same time, you know. And then you'd see Richard Hammond, this car handles very well, and cutting to a tyre-smoking, stink-driven shot, you know.
We don't want to digress, but that was last night. That was Top Gear, and that new Extreme thing is on there. So and it looked
that's in 2 weeks' time.
10 minutes, that's the race over. Bang, done.
Should be. Because NASCAR's up and running. I mean, they've had 6 races already. Formula One, they're all mowing the teams and poor mechanics. I understand it's a stressful job, but you know, about the 23 race calendar this year in Formula One.
Wow.
You know, the NASCAR boys are doing 36 races a year. They've already done 6 of them. We've had 2 wins for Chevy, 2 wins for Toyota, and 2 wins for Ford. So fantastic. I love NASCAR. You know, if you pick a number, or I'm a Kyle Larson fan, you know, who's returning this year after, unfortunately, having been suspended for a racial slur, but he's back and he's won already. And so you follow your car, and you can be a lap down in NASCAR and come back and win. You can be in 30th place, but you're able to fight your way back in these long races. And best of all, this weekend, once you've watched the Formula Ones around a tarmac thing, if it gets a bit boring, they're racing on dirt in full-size NASCARs for the first time in 50 years. They've taken, what was it? I wrote down how many, Molly. They've taken 14,000 lorry loads of dirt and put them on this 1 mile famous Dover track, which is 1 mile round of concrete with about 26 degrees banking. And they filled 140,000 of dirt. So they're going to race NASCARs on. It's like telling the Formula One boys. But also, I mean, the other thing I've loved about NASCAR the last year, there's 40 cars. They go out and race now with no practice, no qualifying. They turn up, they line up on the grid in their given grid positions on past form, and they go into turn one, having never driven a lap of the track in that car. And they've all got away with it and got on with it and don't complain and knuckle down. It's quite amazing that they haven't had huge first quarter accidents. But yeah, literally, they turn up and just start the race. The first thing they do in the car on that track that weekend. It's going to be different this weekend with the dirt. They're allowing them to have a bit of a test on the dirt. But
so they're all going to be
watch NASCAR. You know, you might need times 30 sometimes.
They're going to all be like Freddie and Paddy getting Oppo on the dirt in the NASCAR.
Big trips.
You mentioned WRC right at the very beginning, and you got a little bit excited because there's a 20-year-old leading the series.
Yes.
Care to elaborate?
It's this. I mean, I get slightly annoyed by allowing youth in so quickly, whether it's in any sort of a form of motor racing. Because when I began,
Are you ageist, Mr. Liddell? No,
I am age. Well, then, I mean, you get 19-year-old kids burnt out, you know, because they haven't become a Formula One driver already. You know, where someone without a dad with money or willing to be a kart mechanic for you every weekend of your life, you know, you can't progress. You're 25 if you do it on your own, and then you're too old, you know. And I hate it's ageist in a way in our sport because you are written off if you're about 26 years old before you win a Formula 3 championship or something. So there's an obsession with youth. The press love it. The youngest driver to the youngest driver, the youngest driver. You know, it goes on and on. But you know, these two kids, I mean, Calderov and Berra, whose father was a very quick rally driver, and he's been groomed since he was 2, you know, to drive. So he's had that talent and skill, which obviously he's got the natural talent from his parents. His mother also raced, I believe, or rallied, I forget which. And he's incredibly good, you know. He's now 20 years old and leading the championship. But the last of the Arctic rally, they also had Petter Solberg's son, Oliver Solberg, come out in a Works Hyundai, age 19 years old, going through snowbanks at 100 miles an hour. And again, he's been driving since before he could walk, probably. And so you like it and love it because it's exciting news. And then you think, well, does that not put off everybody that sort of doesn't get into a car till they're 16 or 17 or 20 or 22 when they get the money to go rallying for the first time? So I love the hype, but then I think, oh, it's just not right having a 19-year-old going through forests broadside at 100 miles an hour. They're incredible talents. Well, we got Elfyn Evans, of course. Elfyn shame last year.
I know, saying so close, didn't he? Right to the end, last race.
There he goes, horrible, skiddy, icy stuff and leading. The other thing about rallying, again, which is slightly annoying, is that they've always got this who starts first. So Ogier won incredibly yet another Monte Carlo rally. But that means he started first on the road. In the Arctic rally, they always have this problem in rallying, and it is a big problem. So because he was clearing the roads, they always moan about it like mad. He was a slow all weekend. He just got nowhere. Whereas Tanak, who crashed out of the Monte Carlo rally, therefore started way back, had the best road and stormed to an easy win. And there's no real easy way of sorting out how they can change that big problem. Because it is weird when you're watching as a maybe not very knowledgeable motorsport fan that the great Sebastian Ogier's 4 minutes behind after 3 or 4 stages. You think, well, hold on, he's the best. But it's this problem of who goes first on loose surfaces that always gives the rally weekend a bit of a weird tilt.
So, Tiff, I think we've kind of gone through everything. I was listening to your rally story. Thought it was very interesting.
Every sport we've covered. I've got lists of bits of paper and rallying.
Well,
NASCAR,
that was about 35 minutes. So it's going to be very interesting. We need some feedback. What do people want with the podcast? We spoke to several different people. People say from an hour to 2 hours. Really? If it's entertaining, maybe. But you mentioned Drive to Survive TV show. Season 1 and season 2. I watched them all out of order. I watched season 2 first, which I was hooked on. It was amazing. Then I went back and watched season 1, and now, of course, season 3 was just released, and it's a bit slow comparatively. Season 3 I know there was COVID. I know the whole world was locked down, but I don't know. It doesn't seem to have that.
I watched season 2, and I found a lot of very predictable. There seemed to be sort of too much sort of one team each race and others not getting mentioned. The sort of qualifying and practice sessions were out of order slightly, and I mean, the only program that really struck me, they handled the Spa with the terrible death of Hubert. That was a really good show. They just seemed to hit it spot on.
It really got you,
but
didn't
most
it?
of the others seem a bit drive, PR based. You know, a lot of Carlos Sainz love was going on some of the series. I think he appeared in about 2 shows, and I think Lando hardly appeared in the last year. I can't remember. I'm thinking there's too much emphasis on certain people, not enough on others, and I don't know why everyone loves it. I think I sort of know what's coming each time, but it's a bit predictable, maybe because I know
like it. I like it. I like it a lot. I just haven't gone in season 3 as much as I did for season 1 and 2, and I don't think it is as PR led as you say, because it is proper fly on the wall type stuff. You've got these drivers that are told by their PR agents they must say this, and then they're saying F this and bollocks of that, so it's a little bit different. I think I think it's an exceptionally good program. The guys that make that, wow, the editing and the shots.
Give me a call when you get a good show. Tell me which ones to watch. Then, all right.
I'll tell you two.
I probably should watch them.
You should really watch. Yeah. And you get to know the personalities, like Gunter, for example. I think everybody now loves Gunter, whether you knew him or not before. Now everybody just loves him, me included. What a top bloke. 2 motorsports we haven't mentioned. Well, I'm sure there's lots of motorsport we haven't mentioned that we'd love to hear what you want included. Esports. Now, there's one for you. Maybe we should get in some esports experts
Is that a motorsport? It is.
No, it is. It absolutely is. It's it's sim racing, and of course some of these guys are so good that they can.
It's sim race. It's not a motorsport. It's sim race, which for the fanatics that do it, it's a great challenge. It's very skillful and very enjoyable. If you can't afford real racing, so it's not for me though. So I'd be too frustrated for a start. First of all, I'd have to spend days to make sure I was good enough not to look rubbish. And then so many people get knocked off in these huge first corner crashes. I mean, maybe in the real sim world, it's not as bad as the sort of PR races that we tend to watch or have a look at occasionally.
It's like when you go to a car show and they say, Tiff, come and we've got a sim here, set a lap record. Never do that, because you need at least an hour on that before you can set a decent time. And then everyone's going.
I get blown away. Big. The point is, if you get put off in a real race, you can have a punch up in the paddock and say, "You had me off at that corner, you bastard. I'll get you next time." But if you get put off in a sim race, the bloke's in California or in Tokyo or something, you can't have a go at him afterwards. But it's a fantastic thing for people to do. If you can't afford real motorsport, it's an expensive sport. No, I think it's brilliant. I see a lot of people tweeting, have great pleasure doing it, but it's just not for me. I haven't got the time or there's too much to do, isn't there? Too much to do. Watching Drive to Survive, doing sims, doing real racing. Of course, talk about real racing. There's a rumor around that you might be doing something called racing this season, Paul.
Well, that was the kind of the highlight of the pinnacle of what I've got to talk about, really. Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR, Formula E, and we've got Caterham Academy. So the Caterham, do you know what? It's flipping brilliant. I have to say, I've really got into it thanks to you, Tiff, because you've really been pushing hard for me to learn about things instead of just turning up and
seriously. Yeah.
So in terms
when are you out? When's your first event?
17th of April. So just under a month. But the first event is actually a sprint race, not a proper race. But Caterham do a proper series, the Caterham Challenge, a proper series, and they go to all over Europe, Spa and Silverstone, all sorts. So the Academy is sort of a cut down version of that. One sprint race, which is at Cuthbert this year in the UK. All the others are 6 races around the UK, including Silverstone. You've got Indy Circuit at Brands Hatch, Mallory, Snetterton. So some really, really good circuits. And it's very competitive because all the cars are exactly the same. Everybody's supposed to be a novice racer. Bit of pressure on me because I've been around the track a few times with you. but I can't wait. I'm so excited. I've really, all of a sudden, it's only been the last week, I've really, really got the bug for it. I've really got excited about it.
I'm back in the historics 2 weeks' time. I'll be up at Donington in a TVR Tuscan and a McLaren M1 Can-Am car. So if you're around Donington on Saturday of Easter weekend, I'll be racing there.
Brilliant.
So there's plenty of love cars on the track, apart from love cars on the road this year.
Well, we are now. This is so as of next week, as of 29th of March, Mondays, every Monday, we are going to be, because of course the TV show, if you haven't seen it, was Love Cars on the Road. This podcast is Love Cars on the Grid. So enjoy Love Cars on the Grid. Any feedback, please let us know in the comments below, because what do you want to hear on a podcast, or should we just give up now? So please let us know below in the comments. And as always, pleasure to talk to you. And Tiff, the Oracle, thank you very much.
If I remember all the names in the right order. Cheers, everybody. Happy motorsports.